On Nationwide this evening, Limerick, you're a lady, and a city with no shortage of interesting stories and beautiful sounds, like the chiming of the church bells all across the city. The Ranks flour mills are celebrated in an exhibition at the Hunt Museum, and the artwork of inmates of Limerick Prison goes on show in Kilmainham Jail. This evening we're coming to you from Limerick City here on the banks of the Shannon, and we have stories for you of industrial heritage, ecumenism and hope for the future for inmates of the prison here. We're starting with the story of a sound that is quintessentially Limerick. It's the sound of church bells ringing out across the city. The bells of St Mary's Cathedral have been ringing for more than 700 years, while those in the Redemptorists began in the late 19th century. Now, despite the fact that one is Protestant and the other is Catholic, these two churches have a long-standing partnership, and it's all down to the ancient art of bell ringing.
It's a call that goes out across the city and carries for miles. The bells in Limerick are an integral part of city life, yet very few citizens have ever seen them, until now.
And the bells of St Mary's have been ringing in Limerick for 700 years. As I always like to think, it was on its own for 600 years. And then we built Mount St Alphonsus and another bell tower, and it finally found a partner. And I like to think of the bell ringers of St Mary's and the bell ringers of Mount St Alphonsus almost as the children of the two towers.
That's because they're part of a unique tradition. For over 100 years, a mix of Catholic and Protestant bell ringers have rang the bells in both churches.
A bit like most things in life, the ordinary people on the ground tend to have much more common sense than very often those in leadership positions. And there was always a great friendship between the bell ringers of St Mary's, Church of Ireland Cathedral and here. I think it goes back to 1906. At that time, the bells of St Mary's had been silent for 30 years. And just a few days before Christmas in 1906, the bell ringers from Mount St Alphonsus went and rang the bells in St Mary's.
A partnership was born between the two towers, though they didn't widely advertise it.
At that time, in the 50s and 60s, most Catholics like myself, we would be frowned upon if we visited Protestant churches. But we simply didn't tell anybody, we just went. Once you told nobody, you committed no sin.
Well, no sin, but maybe a bit of mischief. It's not widely known, but the bells here are rung on one very particular non-religious occasion.
We decided to ring the bells when Munster won the Heineken Cup. When foreigners from inside the Pale come to Limerick, you know, and things like that. We rub it in a little.
But ringing these bells isn't as straightforward as you might imagine.
It takes about a year or more to learn the art because it can be quite dangerous. You're pulling a huge weight and trying to control it.
Two strokes, a hand stroke and a back stroke, and the art is in learning to get the bell to a point of balance at each stroke. And then the trick is getting to ring with 6 or 8 or 10 other people in sequence so that they're not all ringing together, which sounds ghastly.
5, 3, 4, 2. There is quite a mental capacity involved in terms of knowing where your colleagues are, because we follow a leader basically, but the order of the bells change. It is very good for developing concentration. So some of the ringing I do, for example, lasts for 3.5 hours non-stop.
But just how do you become a bell ringer? Well, it seems there are many paths to the top of the tower.
It's a family thing, Joan. It's a family thing. I was 11 years of age. My dad took me by the hand and hauled me up the tower and said, "Come on, let's go." And before, his father had done the same to him.
As I grew up on the other side of the hill, about 200 yards from here, listening to the bells since I was a child, I wanted to ring the bells. And I only got an opportunity to come up about 2 years ago.
I had been doing some research in the cathedral, so I turned up at the practice one night and I've never looked back since.
And what is the appeal of bell ringing?
When you're up in the tower, you sort of forget about what's going on in your daily life and the business, and gives you an opportunity to chill out for an hour on a Sunday morning.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's the ultimate performance because you don't have to stand in front of people, but the entire city can hear the music you're making.
It's also pleasant to know that you're doing something useful for society by calling people to prayer. We like ringing. We enjoy learning about ringing, and it doesn't matter whether you're black, white, Catholic, Protestant, whatever. You're welcome ringing, and you're always made welcome, no matter where you go.
Tea break over, it's time to head over to ring at Mount St Alphonsus, where some of its longest serving bell ringers are to be found.
I finished ringing bells 2 years ago, having started here in 1946. I remember when the bells were being blessed here, I met a lady and she said it was the first time she realised that was the way we rung bells, because the bells were struck with little mallets during the ceremony. Hence she took it that was how we rang bells above in the tower, with a mallet.
Many of our members are not in a position to ring anymore, and it's with the assistance of St Mary's that we can keep the art of bell ringing alive in Limerick. That's basically our job. We love doing it, and we will continue to do it as long as we can.
There's been an increase in those joining the ranks of the bell ringers in recent years, and Father Egan says it's easy to see why.
There's that kind of delight in being in a circle with 10 other people, pulling these great weights in a particular rhythm and pattern, and it making music. It's heard across the city and out into the county, and depending on how the wind is blowing, could be miles and miles away.
A wonderful example of ecumenism here in Limerick City. Now, an exhibition with a difference gets underway